So last week I did something which was pretty damn scary for me. My husband has just been made redundant, and we sat down and had a look at our finances. Not the ones we hoped would be, but the scary ones that make you actually sit up and reevaluate your life. So, after my husband's redundancy a week ago, we are now living on one income, and that one income is basically to cover everything, including saving if we can. I'm going to show exactly what that looks like. And if you're new to the channel, hi, my name's Deb. This is Sovereignty Over 40, where I'm rebuilding my life after this big event, but rebuilding my life so that I have the sovereignty, not just financially, but also creatively, to live a life that I'm more passionate about, more engaged with. And this includes finances. And if you're over 40, welcome, hi. If I'm speaking to you, I'm able to help someone out there with this information to take a look at their life and feel less afraid of what is or what could be a scary thing, then welcome, hi, and nice to see you here. So today I'm walking through what is the real numbers, the real decisions of going through our finances. My husband and I are going through our finances with a fine-tooth comb in order to make sure that we actually have everything that we need, but also to look at things like our super, which is our retirement. For those who aren't in Australia, 401k is the equivalent. We're looking at how to actually build wealth in this day and age and in these uncertain times, so that we're not relying on one or two streams of income. So essentially we're diversifying, but that requires sitting down and actually looking through our finances with a fine-tooth comb like we did this week. So why am I sharing this? Because it's scary. And to give you a little bit of context, I am not the financial guru by any means, what I would consider fantastic with money. I've certainly had my rough trot, and they've all been associated with men. And this is something that was flagged by my sister-in-law recently. I have two older nieces, one who's 20, the other who's nearly 21, the other is nearly 19. And the two of them haven't had long-term partners yet. And the first thing my sister-in-law said, who, she's gone through a divorce, has said to me, what do you do with your finances with your husband? And I am shocked that this is a conversation that is being had. But secondly, it means that there's a whole financial conversation that is not being had with women, and particularly young women, which needs to be had. And it means looking at the scary things that really mean you're exposing yourself in some deep, dark way that may not be comfortable for you, but shows the flaws and the breaks in the system that we so desperately need to acknowledge and, equip ourselves to make sure that this is not something that bites us in the butt in the long term, because the system is not built for women. So with that said, I am doing this because I'm not just trying to figure out how to survive on one income as someone who is over 40. I am also looking at the gaps and the holes in our preparation for the future in the event that we were to come back to one income. And no one's really talking about this. There's no real honest information out there. There's a lot of kind of glossed over information, and I don't want to be one of these people that glosses over. So what you see is what you get. These are all real numbers. I am laying it out as my situation. I know people are in worse situations than me. People are in better situations than me. This is not about your situation. This is my situation, and I'm hoping that some of this information will help someone out there at some point. I know how much of a struggle it is. I have lived on income below the poverty line in Australia, below $24,000 a year. I have also lived on the most money now that I've ever lived on. And this is a reality for everyone in this country. There's no good and bad anymore. You cannot have enough, and you may think you have enough, and yet there's still not enough. This is a reality, not just here, I know, but all over the world. So with that said, there is a lot of gaslighting happening on platforms. Pretend everything's fine and it's all smoke and mirrors. I'm actually going to show you from the ground up what I'm doing and how I'm building myself to have wealth, like real wealth. And my family is not from a wealthy background. I am from a family whose dad was made redundant at 50, and he was never in a full-time permanent job after that. He was always contracted. And my parents went from having what seemed like a really great income and then nothing. And then having to work through, they drew on their super, they drew on some savings that they had to put my sister, my brother, my sister and myself through school. We didn't want really for anything, but we were always told that there's not enough. Always. We are part of that belief system that money doesn't grow on trees. There's never enough money. I have additional trauma around this where, I had a younger sister who for her entire life was screaming the house down when she didn't get what she wanted, and my needs were put to the side. I also come from elements of trauma where, my sister, as she went older, refused to pay rent to my parents and was crying out about the fact that she had her car bills to pay, but would come home every week with a new pair of shoes. Whereas I was living and studying to do this profession, working jobs and in courses that, as a performing artist, we are in courses that require us to be there anytime from 8 o'clock in the morning right through at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. This was the reality. I was living out of home from age 19, studying. I did multiple degrees in order to do that, and I had a great career. But, that was the life I chose. And for years, my siblings told me that I was, not to my face, they never told to my face, but they always said to my family that, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's a child. She doesn't know what she's good for. And I knew exactly what I was getting myself into. I knew from the beginning. I knew exactly the path that I was walking, and it didn't look like everyone else's. And now I've gone into that system that they are in to have this conversation with you where I'm like, the system's not even supportive either. There is no guarantees for anyone anymore. And we are part of a crumbling financial system that is literally taxing the absolute bejeebus out of its peoples, not just here, but all over the country, all over the world. And that's something that I want to be able to take some of that power back. So for me, there is a lot of problems and, negativity associated with my financial journey. I was declared bankrupt at one point because of an ex-boyfriend who basically said that he couldn't pay his part of the loans, and yet I was then to take the brunt of it, and I was on $29,000 a year at that point. So there is a lot of things and a lot of choices that in hindsight I have learned a lot along the way, but my lessons, I will happily share them with you. So know that this is all real. Whatever I'm saying here is real, and it is what it is. And there is some baggage and scared feelings about this because this is a path that I haven't ever walked or shared, but I feel like it's part of my healing too. I'm going to take you through here's what I earn or we earn, here's what we spend, and here's what we're cutting reality. And a reminder, this is not financial advice. This is my reality, not financial advice. This is what I'm doing and the steps I'm taking. Okay, to give you and walk you through the numbers as they are, I am a full-time teacher. I became a full-time teacher mid-2022, and the gap between my knowledge and beginner teacher wage is somewhat sparse, but a beginner teacher, basically, depending on what state you're in, because it varies from state to state, I was in New South Wales at the time, beginner teacher wage was $85,000. Now, I'm in Queensland, and if I was in New South Wales, on the level that I'm in now, I would be at least 10 grand more than what I currently am being paid. And so to give you context, and these are numbers you can Google, by the way, the education systems all around the country, you can access this information everywhere. The information that I've got is that I am on a wage of $94,000, I think it's $600 per year before tax. Our tax rate is 32%, I think it is. And then I have a whole heap of added bills that come out even before I actually see any of that money. Now, my husband's income was $130,000. So as a dual income with no kids, we were living pretty well, and we were able to save a lot and put a lot away, having been people that have not been in conventional work pretty much our entire adult lives, but now having to go, okay, play catch up. All right. So I'm on $96,000, give or take, not nearly $97,000. My income goes up incrementally until it gets to a point where it just doesn't go up anymore unless you change levels. My husband's $130,000 income has gone, and we are now on my income alone. Now, before tax comes out, or, as part of tax, I pay into my HEX debt or my study debt. My HEX debt, as of now, which taking into account the 20 odd percent the federal government took off, I have about $82,000 left, which is a lot. Now you know how much my HEX debt was. I am on about $82,000. Now, of that income, that monthly income or so, I have a percentage of that comes off. It's all incrementally taken off. I think mine's about 3 or 4%. So it works out about maybe $600 per fortnight that comes out of my bank account. Now, when I got this position at the current school I'm at, I also got given accommodation. So I've got to get there for 12 months. That expires as of April. And I get basically a good portion of my accommodation paid for every fortnight for a year. However, that gets taxed. So it's an added payment, but I then get taxed at a higher tax rate. So it's, whatever the tax rate is, they're still in that incremental 32%. That is coming off. So at the end of the day, at the moment, I get $3,200 odd a fortnight. So that works out as $6,400, give or take, a month. All right, Australian dollars. If you're in the US, Europe, the UK, do the math. Okay, so that's just that part. So let's look at household stuff first. I've got notes down here so I don't forget anything. So after that, I have to pay all of our bills on top of it. Rent for us, we do not own a home. We do own a property, which we have as a investment property, and we rent. So our investment property is actually in Sunshine Coast. We're in North Queensland, and that property eats up as an additional cost, which I'll go through later. But our rent is $2,600 a month. So every 4 weeks, if we're working out 4-week increments. So $2,600 automatically comes out. That's our rent. We're in regional Queensland. We are in a house, and we had to find this house while I was living in another state. So we basically organised something quite quickly. It is what it is. We could probably move into something smaller, yes, probably, and cheaper. But that is something we're kind of navigating because our lease actually ends in April. All right, so let's take a look at electricity, water, internet, phone as the next. Electricity for us at the moment, and we're in a really hot climate, we do have solar panels on our house, on this house, the rental, which does help. But we spend probably about $200 or so a month on electricity at the moment. We don't spend anything in water because in the Council of Townsville, we actually don't require to pay water unless we are over a certain amount. So every council in Australia is different, but in this particular council, we don't have to pay anything more than that. Internet for us has jumped about 4 times since we actually got the plan, and that was, not even a year ago. It is $94, $96, $95 a month, and it's terrible connection for the record. We also have phones, which for us is $30 a month, so $60 in total for our phones. We can't change our electricity because Townsville has one provider. There's a grand total of 2 providers in the whole region, one provider only that does solar. So we don't have a choice of going and changing that. There is no choice up here. We have one provider. That's it. So the electricity is the electricity. Okay, food. We cook quite a lot at home. We're big foodies and we like to cook, so that is an advantage. We don't tend to buy out a lot. We don't tend to spend a lot, going out, drinking, eating, all that sort of stuff. We do like that, but it's just not feasible, particularly because I'm a teacher and that's, but in the day debt. So thankfully that's, something. For the 2 of us, probably per fortnight, we're spending $350, and that includes everything from cleaning products to our groceries to toiletries to everything. What it doesn't include, however, is like my skincare. My skincare I pay out of my own funds because I spend probably $200 every 6 weeks, give or take. Welcome to being a woman. This is the whole thing. I shouldn't be paying this. It should be out of our daily accounts because all of his is out of daily accounts. That's a whole other conversation. But I do take that on knowing that because it's quite a big cost. I also don't include things like my magnesium supplements and my vitamin B supplements and all that sort of stuff. I don't include that. That's about $60 or $70 every sort of 6 weeks as well. So that's the thing. Let's talk car. We do have a car which is paid off. We paid that off years ago when we bought it. I think we got a loan out for it and we ended up paying it off very, very quickly because it was one less thing that we needed to worry about per fortnight. It was done. So I was saving a bit back a few years ago and I was able to put that as a lump sum and pay off the car, which was awesome. So that is ours. We are very fortunate. It is a diesel, so we're looking probably about $120 odd per fortnight to fill. So, $240 a fortnight to fill. We also have insurances, which are about $90 a month. We also have a scooter, which is our secondary transportation, because this area is so flat. There is no reason why I shouldn't. And my work is literally 10 minutes away and it's so flat and it makes so much more sense to drive a scooter than it does to buy a whole car. We use one car on the weekends. We only use a scooter on our day-to-day commute. So for us, it made a lot of sense. So that we own that outright. That was $2,000. And then we have insurances on top of that, which is included in insurance. So it works out at $140 a month in total. So the two insurances, $140 a month. And then rego for both vehicles, and this is where it gets interesting, is about $800 every 6 months. I need to double check that. But it's about $800. And I'll put the correct info on screen next to me. But yeah, it's about that. So we've got insurances, we've got fuel, we've got to fill up the scooter, it was like $10 a fortnight if I'm lucky, which is nothing. So which is the other reason why we got it. And for a place that is pretty much sunny 300 days of the year, it makes a lot of sense. What else have we got? If we need to service the ute takes a bit more. We service that every 10,000 K on the dot. And that tends to be about $1,000 to service. So that's $1,000, sort of every 10 months or so, a year, give or take. We also have a dog. She's practically human. She's 53 kilos, so she's large. She doesn't eat as much as people think. But, we're buying chicken for her every 2 days. She only eats once a day, which is good. But we're buying chicken, like a roast chicken, like a big chicken for her every couple of days. And then we just eat off the meat. And then she has kibble, but because we give her the meat and the kibble, she's all good. She also has a few supplements. She's only 10, so we give her a rose hip powder, and we also give her, believe it or not, if you have a dog that is prone to UTIs, ladies, give them Ural. Vet is like, you can give your dog Ural, and we nearly died because it has saved us so much money in vet fees for UTI antibiotics. Anyway, so glad about that. So she's, big bag of kibbles, probably about $130 because we only ever buy when it's on sale. We also have her worming tablets, which is about $100 every 6 months. And then we also have a chicken sort of every 4 days, which is $10, $12, $13, give or take. So multiply that, I'll do all the math in there. So we've got rent, utilities, food, phone, car, insurances. The one thing I haven't spoken about is we have to have medical insurance because we are over the $178,000 a year as a couple. This is where it gets really ridiculous. In Australia, if you earn over that threshold, you must have private health insurance. Otherwise, you get taxed on what is called the Medicare levy. Basically, you're earning enough to be able to fund your own medical expenses, is what they say, and that you need to take the pressure off the medical system, the free medical system, which we have here. Now, in saying that, that is $288 a month. But and don't come at me, if you're in Australia, don't come at me about the whole, you could be getting it cheaper. We get a 12% discount as part of corporate. So I get 12% discount. We have a 17% surcharge because neither of us have had health insurance prior to us being on both incomes over that $178,000 a year, a tax year income. So the two of us are having to spend that plus a 17% loading, which comes out at $288 or something a month. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, and the whole reason why we couldn't is that I have lived in Australia for pretty much for half my life. I only just moved to Australia with me in 2020, end of 2020. So he hasn't had insurance here. He hasn't needed it here. He's originally from Scotland, but is a Kiwi, so a Kiwi citizen. But anyway, yeah, that's like, we haven't needed it. And I wasn't getting it on, 30, my biggest income, $48,000 or whatever it was a year. There was no way I was paying that. So we are now being kicked up the arse for now being on an income that is over that. But because we haven't had it before, we're now getting surcharged on that from previous years as an added 17% levy. Go figure. Now, a few things on top of that. I have a business on top of this, which I'm trying to build up, which is currently costing me money, a lot of money. I'm getting a website redone, which, believe it or not, is costing about $9,000 Australian. I'm also getting some coaching, which is costing me about $5,000 Australian. And those business expenses I pay, so web posting is about $150 a year, but I've actually paid for a couple of years, so that sort of levels out, get her on special and all that. I also spend money on a few things, services like, for example, Zoom. Zoom is one of those that I have to spend in order to get and record a lot of my sessions, and also masterclasses. For the record, if you're interested, I'm posting a vocal masterclass on the 18th. Go and get the details below. It's based on performance anxiety and all of the information and the lies basically that you've been told about performance anxiety. So if that interests you, go and check out that below. But generally speaking, that's costing me a lot of. Then there's things like random things where we go into haircuts for the dog every 3 months is about $150, and then random expenses that kind of pop up, and then around that's kind of our main things. So total is about this per month. So we've figured it out at about this per month. At the moment, we don't have, with Ian not working, we don't have an emergency buffer, which becomes a bit of a problem. If Charlie needs to go to the vet, our dog Charlie needs to go to the vet, then we don't have a lot to be able to support that. We also don't have anything in the event the car breaks down. We also don't have anything if I wanted to build my super, although that is something I wanted to talk about. So my employer actually pays 12.5% into super, but I also basically top it up to 15. So I put in not just their 12.5, or they put in 12.5%, but I also add in before tax an additional few percent to top it up to 15, so 2.5% to top it to 15, because I have very little in that department. My super now is about $76,000. Okay, so I don't have a lot. Super is about $45,000 because he's come from scratch. And then, if there's an unexpected bill, we don't have a lot on standby. I had a loan that I was paying off due to a few things that got settled at the end of last year, and we were about to go and purchase a property before, we're literally in the throes of all of this, to sell our property in Sunshine Coast and buy up here so that we can live in it. We don't have to worry. We have a funny feeling that the property we're in at the moment is about to sell, so we're currently trying to figure that out as well. There are a few things we also, like for example, streaming services. We don't have any other than Spotify. So Spotify for me is a tax deduction because I can claim it for teaching. And because it's a usable tool for me, I'm a performing arts teacher, so music, drama, dance, all that sort of stuff. I rely on Spotify as though it's like a second skin. I don't like Spotify. I'm wanting to change, but at the moment, Spotify is my go-to. I have a gym membership, which I'm about to cancel, which is $22 a fortnight, which I'm actually about to cancel because I'm not a big fan of the gym, of that particular gym. And secondly, it's just added, $50 a month, which could be put into savings. I'm going to talk about savings in a little bit, but this is what we're looking at. Eating out, barely anything. We actually put away $200 a fortnight as part of our savings. We put away that money so that we have what is called our fun account. And our fun account is literally for that. We don't have apps. We don't have magazine subscriptions. We go to the coffee shop every so often. We actually have a coffee machine here. We have saved so much money on coffee. It's ridiculous. I like a coffee in the morning. Used to be, or is a 2 coffee a day drinker. And he will go to the coffee shop, or we used to go to the coffee shop for work and spend money on a second coffee. Whereas here, we buy good beans from around the corner here, from one of the roasters, one of the local roasters, and then we have our own coffee in the morning. So we're saving on that as well. That is one thing we do splurge on. So when they tell you, get rid of your latte a day, I would say consider where you could not just cut back you don't have to cut back your coffee, but do your coffee smarter. So we have a $600 machine. It has paid itself over. It's probably 2 or 3 times over already. That's how much we've saved in coffee. So something to consider, particularly when coffees now are about $6 each. We have refused to get rid of the internet, but we are currently looking at a better option because we actually don't like our provider. We can't do health insurance changes because literally every single person is not even, the difference is pittance. It won't save us a lot. We do eat quality food. We go to a market here in Townsville, which we can get, healthy, good food, although the market's not any better really than the supermarkets, which is weird. I should say, small creative expenses. So things like I'll buy music, which I can, again, write off in tax, books, diaries, all that sort of stuff. I do like to journal, so that is something that I do purchase. But again, it's pittance. There's not much to it. I'm not a big shopper. I do love op shopping. I'm a sucker for a really good op shop, and there's some great op shops in this town. It is a city, but Oakville town. And I do, this top that I'm currently wearing is an op shop find. The jean pants are American Apparel, and I found them for an op shop for $12. I have a lot of labeled clothing, which is amazing, that I have gotten from an op shop because people give away so much good stuff because they're following fashion rather than following what suits their body. And I'm a big advocate for following stuff that suits your body. Side note. The only thing I'm starting to change, so for those who don't realize, at 45, I'm going through perimenopause. I sweat like a mother at night. I have changed my sheets and my bed clothing for bamboo, and I find I don't sweat. That is huge. If you're not following Booty, I'm going to put a link down below, but if you're not following Booty, if you're in Australia and you're a perimenopausal woman and you love comfortable sleep clothing, want something that's not going to make you stifle hot, Booty, go and get yourselves the sleepwear. It's amazing. So that's kind of where we're at with this budgeting situation. That's kind of the numbers. If I've forgotten anything, I'm sorry. I'll come back with another video to talk about that. As for a plan, I'm going to actually save this for another video to make you aware of what we kind of want to do. But the very short of it is I want to build my business so that it's actually earning money, so I can make that sort of what I would call carbon neutral for the moment. I want to build up an emergency fund because we currently don't have one, and we're not going to have one until Ian goes back to work. If he can find work here in the field that he's actually specialised in. He's a project manager. That's not the story. I'm teaching for now, obviously, because I am the stable job. It's permanent. Surprisingly, I was offered the option of permanent contract. I have taken permanent. So they can't fire me without a big hassle. In saying that, they're not going to because there's a national teacher shortage. I also want to find something for my husband that's flexible, where we're looking at something that is 4 days a week. But also, Ian's 52. So at 52 years old, he's being edged out of the workforce. even though he's got skills for days. But he also wants to transition into something that is less BS. And at the end of the day, if it's just contract work or it's, you know, something that is a few days a week, he's going to do his barista course this week. So that is something that he's looking at doing because he's actually interested in coffee. He loves food, he loves coffee, something he's interested in doing. So that's given a bit of flexibility, and he may go into that. Pay won't be the same, but it's something that he will enjoy. So there you have it. I'll talk more about what our plans are and what we require and what we're kind of needing in another video. But at the moment, I'm looking at this, for me, as rebuilding and building financial sovereignty. So there's stuff like this goes on, we're not crashing down, and we know that our future is still being built. That's a big thing for me. And for those who have followed along and you're still here on the video, thanks for watching. If you're wanting more information about my numbers and, you know, what kind of income we're taking in, please don't hesitate to reach out, comment below. But I will say this, if you are scared of looking at your numbers and you just want someone to be able to hold you accountable in the mess that is what is financial literacy, it is a scary, scary thing. And I firsthand know what that feels like. I've been so fortunate that I have a husband who is so patient with me, because I have been working through such significant financial trauma, believing that I couldn't manage my finances, you know, champagne taste on a beer wage, when the reality was I was barely earning enough to actually survive. To have that told to you when you're seeing the evidence of people being frivolous with their money and people throwing it away, and then being told that that you're naive and that you're a child and you don't know what you're doing, I absolutely understand where you're coming from. So if you need that accountability, or you want someone to help you with the accountability, or you want some help, I'm more than happy for you to reach out. Just put a comment below and I'll reach out. But I've been so fortunate that I have my husband who has been so patient, helping me unpack all this. When they say relationships are where you often unpack your biggest traumas, this is one of my biggest traumas, and he has been so patient and so forgiving and loving around this topic, making this conversation that I can have with you much easier, even though it scares the shit out of me. This is something that I can have and feel comfortable enough to be able to share it with the world, knowing that I'll hopefully help someone along the way. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you on the next video.